Welcome to the e-commerce growth show, brought to you by Segmentify, the fast, lean learning machine, the fastest learning, most revenue generating personalization platform for e-commerce.
Well, welcome to the e-commerce growth show. It's going quick, and I'm fresh in the lockdown near Bristol, still in the middle of the COVID thing. If you hear any children shouting about like banshees, sorry about that. They're still being homeschooled, which is still going really, really well. They're on their mid-morning break, which has just been fueled by hot chocolate and about 15 marshmallows. So it's going to be fun for Mum. Anyway, I would love to welcome my guest today, and it is Matt Wilkinson. So Matt is a very experienced head of e-commerce. 20 years experience, I'm told, and currently has been working at Arlo Jacob. And I mention has because sadly, at the moment anyway, the company has sadly gone into administration, but we're going to hear all about the story behind that shortly. Matt is a classically trained graphic designer by trade, so didn't come into e-commerce from the IT angle, so has much more kind of marketing and graphics-led expertise. Has run agency side 10 years and even ran one, I believe, for 6 years, building hundreds of sites. And actually, it's a great connection with us because he is a massive advocate of CRO and how that is associated with design. So I'm really keen to hear all about Matt's experience. Hi, Matt.
Phil, good morning, and thank you for the
Hello.
Intro. I think that paints as good a picture as we can, but thank you.
Not at all. So just an opening question. Obviously, I mentioned Arlo Jacob in the intro. Tell us more about the backstory of that.
Yeah, it's sort of a short cycle, but quite an interesting one. So I joined the guys at Arlo Jacob over in Fulham in January, and seem to have great prospect there. For people who don't know, they're a sort of up-and-coming furniture retailer, 5 showrooms across the UK, doing some really cool stuff, some really great furniture. But unfortunately, beginning of April, one of the companies in the group of companies that we're part of, unfortunately, got into trouble with the Laura Ashley situation. So Laura Ashley unfortunately went bust, owing us £2 million.
Oh man!
And, so we, unfortunately, at the bottom of all of that, had the sort of the virtual rug pulled from underneath us. And very, very sadly, 3 months in, starting to do some great stuff, and suddenly had to pull down the shutters temporarily. So, but there may be a silver lining to it. We're hopeful that somebody might come in and rescue us. I'm sort of hearing some early signs that something might be happening. So hopefully there could be a silver lining to that. Fingers crossed. And, watch this space, or more importantly, watch my LinkedIn profile.
Sure. Well, so in terms of like an overarching theme for today's chat, let's talk about what we could be focusing on now as an e-com retailer, particularly as businesses coming back to at least a degree, where obviously Boris just yesterday, I think, was talking about this sort of phased relaxation of the lockdown.
Indeed.
So what do you think we should be doing right now?
I think ultimately this has been a fantastic time for e-commerce people as a whole. I mean, we've seen certain industries explode, and as people have continued to want to shop and have continued to want to buy, and their only way of doing that has been online. So some online retailers, it's been an absolutely fantastic time.
Completely.
And I think as business, we've got to get business back open. We've got to get the UK high street back open. But I think it has changed the way we shop and do things even more. And so, digital commerce, I think, has definitely come under even more focus than it usually has. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity for people to really take stock of what they've got and to really get it working well for them. So really look under the hood and really understand what you've got And something I used a lot, what does success look like? Ask yourself, what does success look like? Do you know what success looks like? Because you should, and then set those goals and continually improve on it. So great time. Actually, I see quite a lot of positivity coming out of this, hope commercially. Coming out of this, I think it should be an exciting time for all us digital people.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like you alluded to, it's clearly split, right? In terms of some businesses doing incredibly well, others clearly falling off a cliff, right? I mean, I was just buying up stuff myself, getting bits and pieces for the garden, got some cushions or something for, so I'm looking at some of these brands are going to be absolutely inundated with business and others not. What's the sort of advice to those guys that are trying to trade through a difficult period right now?
I think this is a time when you've really, if you're not an analytics person, get into your analytics, because I think you've really got to understand and see what's going on. But I think you've got to really look beyond the obvious. And I'll give you an example. So obviously traffic to your website has and will have declined majority wise. Obviously there'll be some that would have increased, but by the general sense, most people, we saw at Arlo and Jacob, we saw our traffic just slowly falling off a cliff. And you'll see that. But what's really happening underneath? People are actually becoming slightly more determined to what they want to buy. So actually you may see slightly shorter buying times. People are doing maybe less research. They're coming onto the website. They know what they want to buy it, and they become a little bit more focused and determined. So whilst it's easy for us to sort of throw a panic and, my traffic's dropped by 50, 60, 70, 80%, have a look to see what else is happening underneath it. Have a look to see, is your conversion rate improving because of that traffic? And it probably has. Are people coming back less and buying quicker? So there should be some positives in there. So it's a question of just understanding your data beyond just what you're seeing on the surface. You've got to look underneath what the big sort of go-to. I've seen a couple of things on LinkedIn recently, where people are saying, they've seen massive increase in their PPC over their organic. And again, it's easy for people to be sold that, but you've got to look under the hood to really understand what's happening. Has there been a change in devices? More people on mobile to desktop? Has it gone back to slightly more desktop or laptop usage because people are at home now, not necessarily out and about? Again, conversion rates historically are better on desktop and laptop than they are on mobile. So again, look at that, look at your demographics. You've got to dig deep to see what's working and not working, and not necessarily be panicked by what you're seeing at the surface. So that's my big thing. Get into the data and really understand what's going on.
Sure. So there's a couple of things for me there. I mean, first of all, when you talk about data, what data? I mean, me as a not directly in your world, obviously working in a tech supplier, what does it mean in terms of what that data is? And then in terms of like the way in which you use the data, like, so would you be reacting differently because there's more, for example, more people on desktop than mobile or whatever? Could you tell me, a bit more about the data and then how you might react in a different scenario where data is different or something?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways of answering that. I mean, I think when I talk about data, I'm talking about Google Analytics. We should all have access to Google Analytics, and we should all be using Google Analytics and making sure it's set up correctly, because it's important that you can have Google Analytics, or GA as we like to call it, set up. But have you got your e-commerce working correctly? Are you making sure that it's not double tracking? You've got to make, and so it's about looking at your Google Analytics data and then marrying that with your back end e-commerce store data, and make sure the two are at least, you'll never probably get them 100% together, but you should get them within a sort of plus or minus 5%. And you then know you're in the right ballpark. Break it down by a day or by an hour, depending on the volume of e-commerce you're doing. So, and then out of that, then I would start looking to see how you can start building hypothesis. So this is where the sort of CRO and the testing and the understanding comes. So start building some hypothesis around, and those are just challenges. Challenge yourself to sort of say, if I've got more traffic coming to this device at this time of day, how should my site look? Am I giving that target audience, that cohort of users, am I giving them the right message at the right time? So I think there's a fantastic opportunity here, and we've all spoken about personalization for a long, long, long while. But are we using personalization? Not many people are actually using personalization unless you're Amazon or somebody. So, and tools like yourself, and there are lots of tools to market, and either separately or CMSs that should allow you to look at your cohorts and start making content the right shape, the right design at the right time of day, depending on gender, time, whatever you want to do. That there are huge opportunities out. So use the data to start building your hypothesis to challenge yourself in different scenarios. And I think and it comes to something else I use a lot. I use sort of a design thinking kind of based framework where you should force yourself to continually, it's like continual improvement. It's not a question of just building a site and they will come. You've got to look at that site and continually learn what people are doing and build those hypotheses on a weekly basis. So that would be my first step and my first sort of target.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, I totally get that. Is it hard to have that almost athletic kind of mindset in that role, doing that with the everyday job of being an e-commerce manager or a head of e-commerce? Is it possible? Do you know what I mean? Because
it's a really good question, Phil. It's a very good question, and I think different people do it in different ways. So I can give you what I use. I'm not saying this is everybody's cup of tea. So I'm a big fan of something called Trello. It's an online sort of organizational tool that most have heard about. What I love about it is that you can just build a small backlog of ideas, and then basically you can use it. You can effectively, if you're a sprint person, you can sprint groom it. If you're just a normal person, you've got a list of things and you just work through, as you have an idea will pop into your head at any given time during the day. And you just need somewhere where you can log it. So Trello, I can go to Trello. I've got it on my mobile phone. I've got it on my laptop. I can pretty much drop an idea into Trello in seconds. And then I can basically let that idea grow. So you're kind of seeding. You're seeding your CRO. And you need to seed it with ideas. And you may not have an idea for 5 days. You might have an idea every hour. And again, that allows different people to work in different ways. And you can build and then prioritize your hypothesis and decide what you think may have the best impact, and then just start testing. Just get out there. You don't need to spend money, or you can spend money. There's Google Optimize, which is a fantastic tool that I would recommend anybody looking to get into that space should have a go and have a look at. They have a great catalog of how to do things, and then there's a multitude of platforms and tools above that one can jump into. But no, so that's how I do it. Just idea comes into my head and I capture it in Trello, and then I build it from there. I can share it with a team, or I can keep it to myself.
Yeah, I suppose that's a great way. I mean, I'm the same actually. I mean, I can't do anything without, some weird stuff that I do to try and keep track of all the, information which is flowing around all over the place. I mean, I use weirdly my Google Calendar to chuck all sorts of stuff in so that each day it's staring me in the face. But I know loads of people use Trello and other work management sort of tools.
There are loads. You've got, everybody, if you're into sort of big sprints, you've got the whole Jira if you want to get stuck into it. But Jira, I have a love-hate. Who doesn't have a love-hate relationship with Jira? It's great, but you can get lost in it, which is why, and there are other tools. So loads of options in that space.
Yeah, no, completely. But the good thing about it, I suppose, is that, when you do have, as we all do, if we're busy people, dynamic, ambitious, trying to get the best out of life, you've got to find a way of navigating around the fact that you've got stuff that will come in sideways and smack you on the side of the head, and you've got to drop tools and do it, compared to the stuff that you want to get on with and do. So I think having almost like I like to call it like an athletic mindset, like you look at your job like it's you're an athlete, and you have these tools to be able to streamline yourself so that you can make sure you stay in control of all the stuff that's going on, and still be able to handle then if something comes in like a curveball or whatever, and you've got to crack on and change direction momentarily,
There's something else that I use too. Two things I was going to sort of say off the back of that. I'm a big fan of sort of conversion-centered design. And I don't take full
Yeah.
credit for this. Actually, I follow a guy called Ollie Gardner from Unbounce, who's
Okay.
very, very well known in this space. But
Sure.
there are 7. So he talks about 7 key principles to conversion-centered design, and I would really recommend anybody listening to go and have a look at that, because it really, those 7 principles give you a really great opportunity to think about and give what you're doing a little bit of science and a little bit of structure. Because we often, and I found in sort of boardrooms and C-suite, design and is everything in the in the eye of the beholder. So if you're able to put a little bit of science to it, that massively helps, massively helps, because it gives you a reason to say, well, I want to change this page, or I want to do this experiment, and I want to do it because actually, based on the 7 principles of CCD, it says that I should do that. Outside of that, it's also just make time to go and don't need to do sort of full day conferences, but I'm quite a big fan of going to sort of breakfast webinars or seminars that lots of sort of CRO companies, probably like yourself, when we get back to being a little bit more being able to move about. Often did quite a few sort of morning webinars and seminars, and they're a great place that you can just take yourself out of your day job, sit there listening to other people and what they've done. And it's amazing how many ideas that sort of sparks. You've got to, it's so easy for us to become self-contained in our own environments. It's good to just get out. So I try and get out every other month just to do something and get inspired. I really, really recommend that.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And actually, that's really encouraging for me to hear that, because I don't often hear from the other side. Because obviously, as a business like Segmentify or all the other tech providers out there, actually, they're always talking about how, we'll put a breakfast on, or we'll do this webinar, we'll do this, we'll do that. And you think it's always coming from the sales side. It's always a sales machine saying, right, how do we get more leads? How do we get more leads? We've got to do this, we've got to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just being honest. That's from my side of the fence. But it's really nice.
We know it, but
yeah, right. Yeah, of course you do. You know what I mean? Because you're probably getting slammed with phone calls like all day, every day, and it must be a nightmare. But the great thing to hear that is that actually, if you do put thought into offering some really valuable insight from a tech side to the market, then there are people like you out there, obviously, that want these marginal gains and this knowledge, because you want to be an expert in your sector, because you want to drive forward and be successful, or whatever else drives your life. I don't meet that many people who kind of get out of bed in the morning going like, I don't want to do anything today. I'm not bothered. I'm just not interested in anything. It's rare, isn't it? I think most people want to do something valuable with their lives, which means, like you said earlier, that continual development, that driving things forward. So it's great to know that when I joined Segmentify, and it genuinely is a groundbreaking solution. I say groundbreaking there. That's kind of interesting. So it's groundbreaking.
I was going to say, I know there's a lot of baking going on at home at the moment.
There is. Yeah,
it's creeping into our lives wherever.
I'm about to make. Absolutely, I've got to make some flapjacks soon. Actually, reminds me. But yeah, it really is. And the fantastic thing is, as you were talking about data, is that we too actually plug GA straight into the back of Segmentify, and then we take that information and we build it in our own dashboard to prove to clients that we aren't going to take a penny of your money unless we are significantly improving revenue contribution and personalization through your site. And we therefore, because nobody wants to be paying for something that they don't fully know whether it's genuinely bringing the value or not. So, in the same sense that everybody needs to know how data is performing, or at least understanding data, we want to do that, in a massive way for our customers before anything else, because a proof of concept or an A/B split test against the incumbent supplier, people love it. They're like, well, you're telling me we don't need to part with any cash whatsoever. You're coming along, you're setting it up, you're doing the test. It's 14 days or 30 days. And at the end of that, only then, if we see, gobsmacking sort of, uplifts in X, Y, and Z KPIs, are we even going to start talking to you about anything else? And it's just proven to be such a fantastic position to be in, because we literally have to say, well, we can't be in business unless we're doing something powerful to change the landscape in terms of improvement of personalization. So that is I think very kind of in keeping with what you're talking about. And the fact that I can go out to breakfast or webinars or things like this and say that is really refreshing place to be.
Definitely. No, I'm not alone. Yes, you won't get huge numbers, but you'll get a few. You'll get a few keen people, and it's all about
No,
just
completely. Yeah,
again, I've sort of
yeah,
said sowing the seed, and that's what it's all about. Getting
absolutely.
to know people and
Yeah,
getting comfortable with it, and then giving it
absolutely.
a go. So yeah,
I mean,
totally.
like bottom line, you got to have a good product. It's like whether you're Arlo and Jacob or Segmentify, it actually doesn't really matter. The first step of the ring is you can't go out there if you're peddling. You got to have something quality. But after that, the world's your oyster, really.
And I think
However, like you said, being creative.
yeah, you touched upon a really good point there, and I think going back to what I was saying earlier about the new trading period that we're coming into as a world
Yeah.
and as a UK, I think tools that we use will come under more scrutiny, and we as e-commerce owners and website owners will demand more from them.
Yeah.
I was, even though I was a short tenure at A&J, we were already challenging. I was there and I was brought in to challenge a lot of the stuff that was already there. We were already going through an RFP stage. So yeah, and I think that's what everybody should be doing. Everybody should be taking a look at what they're doing and going back and saying, do you know what success looks like? And is this meeting what you want it to do? And more importantly, can it do better? And that's quite a difficult question. Can it do better? How do I know it can do better? So that's where you guys, platforms like yourself, that's where you can really come in and help answer those questions a little bit. And that's what, as an e-commerce, I'd be looking at. I'm always out there saying, how can you bring something new to the table and do better than where I can take it to? So there's a challenge.
No, for sure. I mean, if you were to sort of boil down a basic set of tech then that you think would, in terms of your expertise in trying to take that approach of conversion-led design, understanding your segments and, trying to maximize all that. If you were to say to me, look, we need top in terms of like bucket, not necessarily supply and name, but like in terms of the stuff that is critical that you would use to try and do all that, what would you recommend?
Yeah, it's a tricky question, but it's a good question. For me, and I think a lot of people, a lot of e-commerce owners will have their own opinion on this. So
Right,
this is
sure.
very, very much my little go-to tool set
Sure.
in a way.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of collecting customer feedback, and you
Right.
can do that in a number of ways. You can do it in a really expensive, complicated way, or you can do it in a really, really cheap way. One of my little cheap go-to tools, and it is cheap, is something called Feedbackify, and it's a little tab that sits on the right-hand side of your website. And it captures that in the moment feedback, because actually people do love to tell you when things aren't working or they're not working the way they expect them to. So you have to have pretty thick skin with one of those tools, because 95% of what you're going to get told is people telling you they don't like something or something doesn't work. But actually, that is so, I've run that tool successfully in some big commercial environments. I ran it at when I was at the gym group. I ran it while I was at Gatwick Airport too. And, the feedback I had and the sort of the quick learning, I could see a trend, and it's about the trend. You can't react to everybody's individual requirements, but if you start to see a trend, you then very quickly think, okay, I've got to deal with this. I've got a particular segment of people or cohort of users who can't do something. And that therefore should go back to your CRO hypothesis building. Obviously, if it's something broken and it's a bug, then go fix it. You can put it on your bug list. If it's something a little bit more generic, then, that should be at the top of your CRO priority list. And that's also another area of stuff's coming in. So, and I take stuff one step further. Session recording, I think, is another really underused tool. I love session recording tools. I know there are lots out there. You've got Mouseflow, Session Cam, Tea Leaf, and a whole ClickTail and a whole load of others to talk of. Hotjar is another very popular one. Use it well. It can be hard work, and you kind of look there and you think, God, I've just recorded 2,000 user recordings. How the hell do I kind of find a needle in a haystack? But you'll get used to what you look for. You look for the ones that don't convert. Look for the journeys that take longer than you'd expect. Again, refer back to your analytics, And it's amazing how quickly you can filter those down, and you can see where people are struggling. Build that next to your user feedback, whether you're collecting it through something like Feedbackify or many others. Qualaroo's another really good one.
Yeah.
Or Zendesk or SurveyMonkey or blah blah blah. Any one of those tools that people want to use, and that really helps you build, because that comes back to that sort of whole user-centered design approach as well. You're designing it for your users. You're building a site and an e-commerce platform for users. So understand where the bottlenecks are, understand where the funnels are, and then build that against your data, so you can look at your funnel analysis in GA, understand where people are dropping off, ask poignant survey questions at the right time, and you'll be amazed at what you can build in that space and time to then go and test and build and put into a sprint backlog or however process you want to work. There's some great ways of doing it. So that's my sort of go-to. I'm also a big fan of something called Browser Stack, because you'll get feedback from people saying it doesn't work in this device or that device. Well, you can't just go and find your mate's phone and see if it works on your mate's iPhone 10 or your old Samsung. You want to see it. You want to see it directly. So those are my kind of go-to without getting into the sort of fairly dark depths of major platforms. But those are my go-to tools.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting, actually. One thing you mentioned earlier on actually was a little bit of a kind of a few thoughts on sort of content. It's interesting for us actually, because we, at the moment, the machine learning platform operates around product, but we're just about to do a beta with one of our customers with another content management kind of platform. I suppose I can mention it really. It's Styler. Probably some people might have heard it before, but it's a bit like ZMags, but it's a better fit for Segmentify, because our kind of price point, if you like, is very much towards trying to help the mid-tier type business. So we're 30-day rolling contract, a few £100 a month, sort of minimum. So we're not taking it can be based on rev share as well, but we're not trying to be a very, very sort of expensive solution and try and serve everybody, if you like, with this sort of superior machine learning speed that we've got.
It's good marketplace.
Absolutely. And like you said, people are, in the main, people are driven. They want better stuff, better than what they've got now. They're always looking for those marginal gains. How do they squeeze more out of it? Because of course, it's with the e-commerce sector becoming more important than ever. Therefore, the need to be differentiating is going to have to be even more important as well.
Definitely.
But certainly in terms of the content, it's been banded around a lot that it's really, really important. And obviously with an integration with something like Styler, where all of a sudden now we can start personalizing content as well as the products, not only as you might see you might go to a blog and then you've got to go somewhere else to then look for that product, or that product's been manually put there. You then follow that link and it goes to a dead page or something because it hasn't been updated. So silly little things like that, which you wouldn't want, to the more advanced situation where actually you're getting served a different page because you are a VIP customer segment, and I'm getting served the bargain basement page version of that page because I'm a discount hunter and I love a bargain, so yeah, that's true actually. Anyway, so in terms of
we'll have a bargain, particularly
we do, man. Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Get your discount codes out now. I tell you, for an e-commerce person, you've got to make sure you've got your discount, your promo codes are being used to the max.
Yeah, actually, you've reminded me. Actually, have you heard of a platform called Wish?
I have, yes.
I mean, that seems like, and this is a little bit of a left field comment, right? But I mean, are they doing something pretty almost borderline scary for the likes of even Amazon? Like, I mean, are these guys going, you can get this straight out of China at even the fraction of the price of Amazon prices or anybody out there, and it's still being delivered within a reasonable timescale? Have you noticed this? Like, or am I just like late to the party or something? Do you know what's going down with that?
Yes and no, but only on very personal experience.
Right.
Let's put it this way: I've never had a good experience from it, and that's
Oh,
probably
really?
the
Right.
safest way of putting
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I did wonder.
I think Wish probably, for me and me
Mm.
personally, my
Mm.
personal opinion, yeah, a bit wishful thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'd park that one probably.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting concept. I've just seen it, and the marketing side of it is slick as. But I'm just thinking, wow, I mean, everyone's been. I mean, I don't know. I mean, people naturally are going to be speaking about the likes of these big beasts like Amazon and stuff, and how we work to still create your niche, right? Whilst
Yes.
the massive beasts are there, but it's doable. It's got to be doable because people are doing it.
Oh,
Companies
completely.
are doing it, and then you've got that this next level thing who are then coming straight out of the factory in China and trying to do it as well. So I don't know, I just found it quite interesting. But like you say, there's it doesn't seem. I don't know much about it. I just thought, wow, I wonder if But anyway, let's just see what happens with that. But just to go back to the content side, I mean, for you, how much? I suppose there's two things quickly on that. Like, one is, what is content a strategy that should be used for anybody, or are certain
Definitely.
industries,
No,
going to
definitely.
be much more important than others, right? And the other thing then is, how would you use content to get what
Yeah, I mean,
loyalty,
content.
sales, whatever.
It's another good question, Phil. And content remains a challenge. Content's been a challenge ever since I started, ever since
Yeah,
the web started.
yeah,
Um, I built my first commercial website back in sort of 1997, and ever since then, content has always been a challenge. And some people nail it, and some people don't.
right.
Producing, even though we know content's important, content's important
Mm.
for SEO still. And that's been
Yeah,
around since the day. Um, some people are lucky and have good marketing teams or good marketeers who can generate content easily.
yeah,
I've been in environments where we've had 900 web pages of content that probably
mm.
never ever got surfaced, and I've been into it.
Mm.
I've run websites that have had virtually no content whatsoever. Um,
Yeah,
it remains a challenge, and yes, you've got to just plug away at it. I think you either look to a tool that can help you generate individually personalized content from an SEO perspective, or you just plug away,
mm.
and again, you can apply that sort of Trello kind of seeding hypothesis idea. Again, you should have a sort of
Mm.
another vertical. Content remains a challenge for everybody, and you've just got to work hard at it. But just plug away at it, come up with ideas, build a small list in Trello around sort of content topics. Again, take your user feedback, see if what people are asking for. Look at SEO. You can use SEO in your paid search to see what people are searching for. Look at your competitors. Again, look
Mm.
for
Yeah,
inspiration, not only
yeah,
in your own vertical, but have a look to
mm.
see what other people are doing outside of it. Get inspiration from wherever you can is probably my best advice. And it's a
Yeah,
challenge. Without, I
yeah,
find content a huge challenge
yeah,
personally, and
yeah.
finding the right people that can do it well is also a challenge.
Yeah, and is that so? I mean, obviously, I don't know how this stuff is done in general. I mean, is this? Do you have to like outsource the kind of volume of content that needs to be created, or can you spin it up quick in something like Styler, or like what do people do?
It's a mixed bag. It's a really
Yeah,
mixed bag. I mean, I've
yeah,
worked in environments where we've had, particularly with social now, social generates almost forces
yeah,
you to generate content as well, and
yeah,
good content. So,
yeah,
a lot of people are
yeah,
using content from a blogging perspective. So if you've got a blog
mm,
and you might have somebody in your team who's just keen and wants to do it, or
mm-hmm,
I've worked in teams that have dedicated content writers in the marketing team, and they're focused with putting together a blog a week or a blog every other week, and their job is to go and see
mm,
what people are talking about and create content from it. So
mm,
it's a real
yeah,
mixed bag, and I think actually, touching upon social is an area
mm,
where
mm,
actually is where a lot of content actually should be stemmed from. And if you want a content strategy, it should be pretty heavily around your social strategy, because social is
mm,
about engagement, and how do you engage with
yeah,
people,
absolutely,
ideally through content. So that
yeah.
would be my kind of pence worth in there.
Yeah, and I just obviously that's why these agencies are out there, because their services are needed in all these different areas that we're talking about, whether it's content, social, SEO, PPC,
and
whatever.
Your SEO agency will probably be absolutely banging your door down for content, because that's their kind of quick go-to, and rightly so. It's their go-to way of getting, going after stuff. So you'll always be forced, if it's not your web. Your e-commerce guy asking someone for content, your SEO agency will be asking for content, and
no, that's very interesting. So it's good that we're going down this route of really start to take advanced machine learning to personalized, pages that can be served to different segments, as well as improving the journey, so that when you've worked hard on that blog article or whatever it is, and you've got that fed into the same engine, in terms of the products, then you can serve the right products, make sure they're there, within that journey, and hopefully speed up the customer journey and make sure that you're getting that ROI on that content. Because, it can be costly, I expect, right?
Yeah. And go back, and I touched upon that, the conversion-centered design and the 7 aspects there. There are some really great things in there that will help you shape your content, because obviously, ideally, your content should be commercially focused. I'm going to talk from people who build websites to sell stuff. It's not just about a blog. Ultimately, there should be an end goal. An end goal in most e-commerce websites is to sell something. So go and have a look at that sort of commercial conversion-centered design. Understand the pointers there, what you should be looking for. Making sure your value proposition matches your campaign proposition, and all these kind of things. Just make sure you get the basics working together. Across the board, and you'll be amazed at how many people don't join everything up. And the success from joining it up can be really successful.
No, it's great, and that to me sounds like a great takeaway. That seven principles of CCD you were mentioning, and it's great that there's so much crossover between our worlds, really, because it's a serious affair. It's your profession. And there's always a way of doing it in a more effective manner with continual learning. Exactly the same from my point of view. I can't sit still in terms of management, leadership, sales. Particularly when it comes to thought leadership, you've got to spend a lot of time on that. But listen, thanks a lot for that. It was a really, really interesting chat. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, Matt, just quickly let the guys know what's the best way to get in touch with you.
Yeah, I think like everybody, LinkedIn is probably is without doubt the best place. So by all means, hunt me out on LinkedIn and send me a connection. Brilliant. I'm usually pretty good and connect to most people, and happy to chat about this in any way, shape, or form. Love what I do and enjoy doing it. And I've been lucky enough to work in some great environments across the last few years. So can give sometimes some quite different aspects to things.
Yeah, no, it's been really interesting for me. It's been nice to bounce some stuff off you, and
no, likewise.
It's been cool, and hopefully, we'll keep in touch, and in a few months' time, maybe have a catch up and see how things are getting on for you. But as I say, thank you so much for your time. Thanks, guys, for listening. And it just remains me to say, really, that if you haven't done so already and you love these podcasts and you want to get involved, or you want to listen to the ones that are already on the website or on the channels and stuff, and get hold of the new ones as they come along, do register at segmentify.com/podcast. And as I say, I've been Phil Kay at Segmentify. Give me a shout anytime. As I say, if you want to be involved, I'm Phil at segmentify.com. Any questions? Or you want to be involved, give me a shout. All right, but take care, stay strong, and we'll speak to you soon.
Put us to the test and let us prove we can drive more revenue for you. Sign up for a completely free proof of concept or split test against your current provider, set up and optimized by our team within a few days at segmentify.com/demo.